What's everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto's first kiss turned Hinata into his eternal mate? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. In the village hidden in the leaves, everyone is going about their day as usual, but for Uzumaki, Naruto today would be anything but ordinary. Naruto runs through the village searching for his longtime crush Sakura. "Where are you, Sakura-chan?" Naruto whispers to himself. Ever since he woke up this morning he's been feeling strange, and whenever he thought of Sakura he had this overwhelming urge to see her, and despite him trying to suppress it he couldn't control it anymore, and that's what brings us to he continues to look around. He's unaware of a person in front of him until he collides with her, knocking them both into the ground. "Hey, watch where you're going." The person Naruto collided with shouts angrily. Sorry, I didn't mean to, Ino?" Naruto apologizes but stops midway when he realizes that the person he collided with was none other than his fellow blonde Yamanaka Ino. "Naruto?" Ino asks, her anger quickly being replaced with both stare into each other's blue eyes before Naruto gets up and offers Ino a hand. "Sorry about that, Ino-chan, I was in a hurry and not really looking where I was going." Naruto apologizes while grinning sheepishly. "Well, obviously," Ino responded, annoyed. She took the offered hand in hers and rose to her feet, but she suddenly froze. She was feeling an odd sensation that was reading up from the hand that is holding Naruto's. "Ino-chan?" Naruto questions as he looks into Ino's eyes and freezes. The powerful urge he felt before for Sakura is now matched with a powerful urge Ino. Without realizing it, he brings Ino close to himself and wraps his arms around her in an embrace. "Huh?" Ino thinks, confused. She's about to voice her confusion when she and Naruto disappear and reappear in a secluded forest area. Ino looks around her confused and looks back to Naruto, but before she can ask him why he brought her here, Naruto covers her mouth with his. "He's kissing me." Ino thinks, shocked that Naruto would be so bold. She starts feeling the intense passion from the kiss and she's almost overwhelmed by the intensity. "My mind is going blank." Ino's mind begins to get hazy as the kiss continues, unaware that Naruto's thoughts are the same. "What's gotten into me?" When looked into Ino-chan's eyes, I had a strong urge to make her mine. Naruto thinks. He then feels a pair of arms wrap around his waist, and then he feels an intense passion flowing into him from Ino. "Ino-chan." His eyes start to close as the lip lock progresses. Feeling a little bold, he runs his tongue across Ino's lower lip, asking for permission to enter her mouth. Ino quickly obliques as she opens her mouth and Naruto's tongue darts inside, meeting hers, and they fight for dominance. As their kissing gets more intense, they didn't notice red chakra emerging from Naruto's body and begins to cover both of them. But due to a lack of air, they both regrettably part, leaving a thin trail of saliva between their mouths. "Oh God," Ino thinks to herself as she's gasping for air. Her first kiss was unlike anything she had ever imagined. She had always dreamed that her first kiss would be with Sasuke, but Naruto of all people had stolen her first kiss, and if she was honest with herself, she wanted to kiss him again as soon as they caught their breath. "Amazing, Ino-chan." Naruto breathes out her name as they stare into each other's eyes with a look of euphoria, still unaware of the red chakras surrounding them. Naruto leans his head down and nuzzles Ino's neck. "Naruto-kun." Ino moans his name, not realizing the honorific she added to his name. Naruto responds by nuzzling more into her neck, then licking a spot between her neck and collarbone. "Ino-chan, you're mine forever." Naruto whispers to her before he bites down on the spot he licked and sinks his enlarged canines into her. Ino cringes in pain as she feels his fangs pierce her skin. But the pain quickly fades as it is replaced with pleasure. Naruto removes his canines from her neck. The red chakras surrounding them begins to flare up as a symbol of two blonde foxes facing each other with their heads bowed and foreheads touching and tails intertwined appears on the spot he bite, with the Uzumaki clan symbol between them. "Naruto-kun." Ino says his name as her pale blue eyes become silted like a fox's. Her canines become enlarged and she bites down onto Naruto's neck like he did to her. Naruto groans a bit as Ino pulls back. The same symbol that is on her neck appears on his as well. "Now you're mine as well. I wouldn't have it any other way," Naruto tells her while smiling. Ino suddenly feels another odd sensation as her body starts getting hotter and her body begins changing. Ino's hips widen, street chain her purple skirt. Her waistline becomes slimmer and her S start growing. going from a C cup to a D cup. Ino's body, which was already hot before, now rivals that of Hinata. What the hell? Ino shouts as she runs her hands down the sides of her body, feeling every curve of her enhanced features. I love what you've done with yourself, Naruto tells her with a smirk. Ino looks at Naruto and smirks. She walks to him and puts her hands on his chest. I'm glad you think so, especially since you'll get to see and feel them personally during our matting. Naruto wraps his arms around her and leans his forehead against hers. How about later tonight I'll come find you and take you back to my place? Ino lifts her head and kisses him passionately. I'm looking forward to it, she replies as she licks her lips seductively. The red chakra that's surrounding them flares and they disappear and reappear in an alley. See you tonight, my vixen, Naruto whispers in Ino's ear, causing her to shudder. He kisses her forehead and starts walking away. Ino stands there in a daze before raising her right hand and placing it on top of her neck where her mark is. I'm Naruto-kun's vixen, Ino whispers to herself as a small smile spreads across her lips and her eyes become slits briefly before turning back to normal. She then hurries home to prepare for tonight. Meanwhile, Naruto continues his search for Sakura. After marking Ino as his mate, he feels assured now that no other male will try to claim her, and even if someone dares try, the mark on Ino's neck will alert him and he'll immediately appear between Ino and the male who dares try to make a claim on someone else's mate. He'll then show that unfortunate male why Ino's off limits the hard way. I can't believe what happened with Ino-chan earlier, Naruto thinks to himself as he places his right hand on his neck where Ino marked him. And what's with this mark? I know I gave Ino-chan one just like this one, but what is this mark and how was Ino-chan able to give me one? He suddenly stops and unconsciously sniffs the air. Something smells good, Naruto thinks. Without realizing it, his body begins to move toward the direction of the scent, which leads him to a training area where he spots someone practicing their techniques on a few training dummies. Hey, isn't that? Naruto trails off as he watches the person rear back and then swinging a large fan in front of her. Wind Scythe Jutsu. The unknown person is Temari. The older sister of the case cage. Gaara unleashes a powerful gust of wind that slices the training dummies to pieces. She brings her fan behind her with the grace of a dancer and analyzes the damage her jutsu caused. Satisfied with the results, she folds her fan and places it securely on her back. Naruto is in awe. He's seen her wind-styled jutsus before, but that was during battle and never got a chance to stop and really appreciate it. But now that he did have a chance to see it, he is impressed at the power of her attack and how Temari looks with the wind blowing her hair gently and the sun hitting her just right, making her glow. Beautiful, Naruto couldn't help but say aloud, startling Temari. She quickly turned around and saw Naruto looking at her with adoration and to her surprised desire for her. How long have you been watching? Temari demanded, her face red with embarrassment. Naruto steps up to her and scratches the back of his head. From the start of your attack. Sorry, I didn't mean to spy on you or anything. Naruto responds while grinning. He then smells that wonderful scent and realizes that it's coming from Temari. You smell good, Naruto says without thinking and causes Temari to take a step back in shock. What? Temari says, shocked. She wasn't expecting Naruto to say something like that to her. You were amazing out there, Temari-chan. The way you handled your fan, it was almost as if you were dancing, Naruto complimented. Temari blushed at the compliment and at the addition of "chan" to her name. Thank you. Naruto steps closer to Temari. Hey Temari-chan? Why yeah? Temari responds nervously. Do you think you can teach me some of your wind jutsus? Unless it's a village jutsu and you can't teach it to outsiders, Naruto asks. He stares into Temari's eyes and she couldn't help but get lost in them. Of course, it's no trouble, I would love to teach you, Temari tells him, still looking deep into his eyes. Glad to hear that, Naruto responds as he cups Temari's left cheek. He stares deep into her eyes, penetrating into her soul. You have such beautiful eyes, Temari-chan. Temari blushes even redder as Naruto compliments her yet again. She starts feeling hot and her breathing starts getting ragged. Why am I being affected so much from his compliment? Temari thinks to herself. As she was in an inner turmoil, she didn't notice Naruto leaning his head down and capturing her lips in a passionate, eyes widen in shock. She feels the passion from the kiss flowing into her. Naruto brings his arms around Temari's waist, bringing her closer to him. Temari remains still as he continues to kiss her. Does this mean Temari's thinking trails off as she brings her arms up and wraps them around Naruto's neck and kisses him back fiercely. She licks his lower lip asking for entrance, which he immediately obliges. She darts her tongue inside meeting his and their tongues fight for dominance. As this is happening, red chakra emerges from Naruto again and covers both of them. Temari-chan. Naruto thinks as he breaks the kiss and trails kisses down Temari's neck. Temari moans and buries her fingers in his hair. "You're now mine forever," Naruto whispers to her and bites down on her neck, marking Temari as his mate. "Naruto-kun." Temari screams his name, her eyes become slitted and she bites down on his neck with her enlarged canines. When they withdraw a symbol of two foxes, one golden blonde, the other sandy blonde, with their foreheads leaned against the other's forehead, their tails intertwined, and the Uzumaki clan symbol between them appears on Temari's neck. Naruto's mark changes to a golden blonde fox sitting in two vixens sitting beside, with a sandy blonde vixen to his left and a platinum blonde vixen to his right. Both vixens are rubbing their cheeks against the golden blonde fox in the middle, their tails intertwining below them and the Uzumaki clan symbol above their heads. "Temari-chan." Naruto whispers her name. The red chakras surrounding them starts to flare as Temari's body starts changing. Like Ino, her S increase in size, her hips widen and waistline gets slimmer. "The hell?" Temari says, surprised as she feels her chest. Her S are now a D cup and straining against her bra and battle kimono. They're as big as that Hyuga girl now. Temari thinks to herself. She suddenly feels Naruto's arms wrap around her and his hands groping her ass. "I like what I see," Naruto tells her. He gives her a foxy grin and Temari smiles seductively as she feels something hard pressing against her thigh. "I can certainly tell," Temari responds. She rubs the bulge in his pants with her left hand and kisses Naruto passionately. Naruto loosens his right arm around Temari and brings it around to rub between her legs, causing her to moan in the kiss. The red chakra flares wildly around them. Naruto pushes Temari against a nearby tree as they continue to kiss passionately. Naruto places his left hand on her right thigh and starts caressing it. They parted from their lip lock, gasping for breath, and stare into each other's slitted eyes until Naruto takes a step back. "As much as I would like to consummate our mating by taking you here and now, I need to finish doing something first," Naruto tells her, his face flushed. Temari pouted at this, but she understood. Their eyes still slitted, she stands on her toes and licks the whisker marks on his cheeks, causing Naruto to purr. "I think I know what it is you're going to do, and as much as I don't like the idea of sharing you with other vixens, as long as you give me love and attention, I can tolerate the others," Temari tells him. Naruto chuckles lightly and caresses Temari's cheek with his right hand. Temari leans into his touch and closes her eyes, savoring the feeling. Naruto gives her one more kiss before he resumes his search. Temari sighs and decides to call it a day and returns to her hotel room. Her mark suddenly starts glowing, and in another part of the village someone else's mark starts glowing as well. "So Naruto-kun marked another vixen. No matter, I already have dibs on him first," Ino says to herself as she looks at herself in a full body mirror. She poses while wearing a lacy black bra and matching panties. "As soon as Naruto-kun sees me in this, he won't be able to resist me. We're going to do it like animals." As soon as she finishes saying this, red chakra emerges from her body and surrounds her. Ino hunches over in pain as she feels her body changing again. She increases in height from 5 feet 4 inches to 7 feet 5 inches. Her fingernails and toenails grow into sharp claws. "What's happening to me?" Ino says in pain as the red chakra recedes into her body. She manages to walk towards her bed and collapses on top of it. Ino isn't the only one undergoing changes. As soon as Temari enters her hotel room, she is surrounded in red chakra and her body changes just like Ino before collapsing on the carpet floor. Meanwhile, Naruto is still searching for Sakura until he sees a patch of pink hair inside a tea shop. When he gets closer, he confirms it's Sakura, who appears to be in conversation with Hinata. He makes his way inside and walks towards their table, both too absorbed in their conversation to notice him until he's standing next to him. "Huh?" Sakura looks to her right and sees her blonde teammate. Naruto-kun," Hinata says, surprised, her face blushing at her crush being so close to her. They both stare at Naruto, waiting for him to say something, but he remains silent until he reaches into his pocket, pulls out some money and puts it on their table. "Naruto, what are you?" Sakura was saying but stops when she sees Naruto's slitted eyes and is shocked when he lifts both her and Hinata onto his shoulders. "Baka, what are you doing? Put me down," Sakura tells him annoyed. Naruto-kun, what are you doing?" Hinata says, embarrasses at the situation she's been placed in. Naruto has a feral smirk on his lips before red chakra covers all three of them and they disappear only to reappear in Naruto's living room. "This is," Sakura starts to say. "Naruto-kun's living room." Hinata finishes. Naruto puts them down in front of him and immediately kisses Sakura. Sakura thinks shocked. She struggles to free herself but Naruto's grip is too strong. Naruto then licks Sakura's lower lip causing her to gasp in the kiss. This allowed Naruto access to her mouth and he darts his tongue inside exploring the inside of her mouth. Sakura slowly succumbs to Naruto's assault on her mouth. She closes her eyes and kisses him back fiercely. She meets Naruto's tongue with her own and they battle for dominance. They soon part, leaving a trail of saliva between them. Naruto leans his head down and kisses a spot between Sakura's neck and shoulder before biting down. Sakura yelps in pain. Naruto pulls back in a symbol of a pink fox and a blonde fox facing each other with their foreheads leaning against the other's forehead, their tails intertwined and the Uzumaki symbol between them. "Naruto-kun." Sakura moans his name, her face flushed as she looks at Naruto with her now slitted green eyes, not realizing the honorific she added to his name. Her canines enlarge and she bites down on Naruto's neck, making a pink fox appear next to the platinum-collared one and her tail intertwined with the others. Sakura removes her fangs from Naruto's neck and they stare into each other's slitted eyes before Naruto leans his forehead on hers. "You're finally mine, Sakura-chan," Naruto tells her happily. "I'm glad to finally be yours, Naruto-ku, but I'm ticked that you're not mine only," Sakura tells him annoyed. Naruto chuckles before backing up a bit, not releasing his hold on Sakura, and looks into her eyes. "It couldn't be helped, Sakura-chan. Both Ino-chan and Temari-chan were also my destined mates, just like you." Naruto trails off as he and Sakura turn their heads to look at Hinata. "And Hinata-chan too." Hinata gasps in shock. Naruto releases his hold on Sakura and walks towards Hinata, who backs away. "It's okay, Hinata-chan. All I want to do is mark you as my mate and then finally you, me, Sakura-chan, Ino-chan and Temari-chan can live happily together forever," Naruto explains to her. Hinata's back hits a wall and she's shocked at what Naruto has just explained to her. "Why you want me?" she asks him nervously. "Of course." Naruto answers her honestly and gently takes a hold of her arms, and the red chakra that still surrounds him envelops Hinata. "See how my chakra reacts to you? It means we're a perfect match for each other." "Perfect, for each other," Hinata says in disbelief. "Yes," Naruto tells her as he embraces her. "Don't you want me, Hinata-chan?" He begins to lean his head down as Hinata looks into his slitted eyes. "Yes," was all Hinata manages to say before Naruto captures her lips in a passionate kiss which quickly deepens. The red chakra flares and Naruto breaks the kiss to bite down on Hinata's neck, marking her as his newest mate. Hinata moans as her canines enlarge and her eyes become slits. She then bites down on Naruto's neck and a purple fox appears beside the sandy blonde fox, her tail intertwined with the others. A purple fox and a blonde fox appears on her neck, their foreheads leaned against the other, tails intertwined and the Uzumaki clan symbol between them. "I am yours forever," Hinata tells him dreamily. Suddenly Hinata and Sakura bend over in pain, feeling their bodies changing. Their S increase in size, their hips widen, waistline gets slimmer and their height increases. Hinata goes from a D cup to an E cup, street chain her loose-fitting hoodie to its limit. Sakura's B cup increases to a C cup and causing her red tank top to be street shed. When their changes are done, they were about to collapse, but Naruto manages to catch them and gently lays them on his couch. He kisses each of them on their forehead, causing them to smile contentedly. "Sleep well, my vixens, you're both going to need to rest while you can, because when I come back, I'm not going to let you sleep the whole night," Naruto tells them. The mark on his neck starts glowing, specifically the platinum blonde vixen. "Ino-chan is ready to mate, I'd better not keep her waiting." A smirk spreads across his lips as he thinks about what he's going to do to Ino. The fifth Hokage Senju Tsunade is looking over several slips of paper with an intense gaze. Her assistant Shizune looks at her with worry. "Lady Suede, is there something wrong?" Tsunade looks towards Shizune, then gestures to her desk where not one but 5 lottery tickets are displayed, each one displaying the word winner. Shizune has a dumbfounded look on her face. "Milady, why you hit the jackpot on all of them?" Tsunade cringes a bit at Shizune's sudden outbursts but looks back to the lottery tickets with a sense of dread. "Shizune, have everyone be on alert. Tell them to report everything they see no matter how minor it is." "Why yes, milady." Shizune responds a bit surprised at Tsunade's sudden order, but nevertheless complies as she rushes out of the Hokage's office, leaving Tsunade alone. What could this mean? She sighs before pinching the bridge of her nose in frustration, unaware that her shadow is in the silhouette of a fox. Meanwhile, at the Yamanaka flower shop, Ino's mother Megumi has just arrived home after going grocery shopping. She enters the store and heads towards a door in the back which leads to the house part of the shop. As she walks in, she accidentally bumps into a bookcase, knocking several items down. "Oh my," Megumi says in slight surprise before placing the bags she's carrying on a nearby table and crouching down to pick up the fallen items. As she's picking them off the floor and putting them in their proper place on the shelf, she notices a current photo of Ino on top of an open book. As she goes to pick it up, she notices that next to the photo is a picture of a fox, and when she lifts up the photo, the page the book is opened to is about foxes. Being curious now, she looks back to the image of the fox and looks at the description below it. Female foxes, better known as vixens, are very protective of their young. She reads to herself, "Now that's peculiar. What is?" Startled out of her thoughts, she turns around to the source of the voice only to see her husband Inoichi entering the room. "Oh, welcome home dear." She gets up and walks towards him to greet him. "Thanks, so what happened here?" He gestures to the items that are still on the floor. "Oh, that? I just came home after getting some shopping done when I accidentally knocked down some things from the bookcase, but..." She trails off as she shows Inoichi the photo of Ino and the fox. He looks at them a bit confused and looks towards his wife, his expression telling her to explain. "I think it's an omen that something has happened to Ino and it involves that boy Naruto. Aren't you being a little paranoid about this? I mean, it could mean any..." He stops when he notices her giving him a look that says, "I'm in the right." He gulps nervously before answering, "If you're that bothered by it, I'll go look for Ino and check to see if she's okay." A smile instantly spreads on her face. "Thanks, I knew I can always count on you." She gives him a kiss on the cheek before resuming to pick up the remaining scattered items, closing the book and putting it and the photo of Ino back where it belongs. "I'll be on my way then," he says as he heads out the door. "All right, but hurry home," she yells back as the door closes behind Inoichi. Megumi then glances back at the book she just put away before removing it from the shelf along with the photo of Ino and opening it to the page it was before. She stares at the photo when suddenly the photo no longer showed Ino but a platinum blonde fox in the same pose Ino was in. Megumi's eyes widen in shock. She shakes her head and looks back at the photo of Ino, which is back to normal. "What was that?" she asks herself before she hugs the photo along with the book. "Please be alright, Ino." She quietly whispers to herself, unaware that Ino is in fact in the safest place in the village, in the arms of her mate Naruto. At the Hyuga compound, Hyuga Hiashi, the current head of the Hyuga clan, is having a sparring session with his youngest daughter Hanabi. "Alright, that's enough for today, Hanabi," Hiashi says as he wipes off the sweat from his face with a nearby towel. "Yes, father," Hanabi politely responded as she and her father were making their way back into the house when a strong gust of wind blew past them and an image of Hinata suddenly appeared in Hiashi's mind, but there was something off about it. "Hinata?" Hiashi stops in his tracks. The sudden thought of Hinata, or what appeared to be Hinata only with purple fur covering her body, complete with fox ears and a tail, was troubling him. Hanabi notices her father's sudden stop, looks at him with confusion. "Is there something the matter, father?" Hiashi snaps out of his thoughts and looks at Hanabi before responding in a calm voice. "It was just a stray thought, nothing to be concerned about." He resumes his walk back towards the house. Hanabi stares at her father's retreating back, not sure of what to make of his odd behavior. At the Haruno household, Mebuki Haruno is cleaning her daughter's room. "I know Sakura told me that there's no need for me to enter her room since she keeps it clean, but..." Mebuki trails off as she looks around her daughter's room. Articles of clothing as well as books and scrolls are scattered around. Honestly, that girl is just like her father. Mebuki thinks, annoyed. As she picks up the clothing first, a cold chill runs down her spine, causing her to stand up straight. What was that? She asks herself when she hears hurried footsteps down the hallway and her husband Kazashi enters the room looking around frantically. What's gotten into you? She asks him questionably. I just felt a cold chill run down my very soul and my fatherly instincts tell me that it involves Sakura. He loudly proclaims. Mebuki sighs in annoyance at her husband's outburst when she realizes that he also felt what she felt. Wait, hold up, did you just say you felt a cold chill? He nods dumbly. This can't be a coincidence. She says as he places her right hand at the side of her head and shakes her head slightly. Kazashi suddenly points at her. You felt it too? Then it's a definite sign that something has happened to Sakura. He then bolts down the hallway. Hey, where do you think you're going? Mebuki yells out, shocked at his sudden action, before running after him and manages to tackle Kazashi into the ground before he reaches the door. Baka, calm down. Mebuki demanded of her husband, as she holds him by his waist. But Sakura could be in danger, I must save her. He yells out desperately as he struggles out of Mebuki's hold. Baka, how can Sakura be in danger inside the village, and even if she was in some sort of trouble, she can handle it. Even as she tells him this, she still couldn't help but feel a little bit worried for her daughter's safety. The hours pass by and the sun sets, allowing the full moon to shine its light over the village and illuminating a certain apartment through a bedroom window. The occupants inside stirred until one of them opens its eyes, revealing a pair of slitted blue eyes. The other occupants of the bed also started waking up. They lifted their heads and yawned a bit, revealing their sharp teeth, before rubbing the rest of the sleep from their eyes. Sleep well, my vixens? Naruto asks them while laying on his back, gazing up at all, look down at him before smiling. With a hot stud like you to cuddle with, who wouldn't? Ino responds lustfully, staring into Naruto's slitted blue eyes with her own. Being wrapped in your strong arms makes me feel so safe. Sakura says dreamily, not to mention you're very warm and it's comforting. Temari adds her own 2 cents. It's a dream come true. Hinata responds lastly, still coming to terms that her dream of being with Naruto and to make love to him has come true. Naruto looks at all of them, as the moonlight hits them just right, making their fur gleam. Naruto was in awe of their beauty. Ino is the first to notice his dazed look and a smirk spreads across her lips. What's the matter, Naruto-kun? Ino asks in a teasing tone, did we leave you speechless? Temari joins in. The way the moon's light hits you all like that reveals to me what you really are. And what would that be? Sakura asks, her left eyebrow raised. Goddesses. Naruto replies with all honesty, never breaking his gaze from his, all caught off guard by his response and blush furiously, but their fur hides it. They then lean their heads towards him and nuzzle his face. Their hands soon start roaming all over his muscular chest. As much as I would love to show my devotion to my goddesses, it would be better if we find a place of worship first. The girls nod, although a bit reluctantly, in agreement. But don't we have to do something else before we leave? Temari asks. Yes, although it's gonna be a little difficult for you, Temari-chan. Temari just shrugs her shoulders. It can't be helped, but we should hurry and get everyone else's out of the way, and besides we might run into Gaara and Kankuro along our way. They get off Naruto's bed and exited his apartment. Once outside, they immediately took to the rooftops as they made their way towards their first destination, the Yamanaka flower shop. They land by the front door and walk around the property of the house on all fours, making sure the coast is clear. Okay, everyone listen up. I think it would be better if me and Naruto-kun do this alone. Ino says, surprising everyone slightly. Why just us, Ino-chan? Naruto voices the question on everyone's mind. Ino looks at Naruto, a serious expression on her face. Because Naruto-kun, if we all barged in looking the way we do, my parents might feel threatened and might do something rash. Ino explains matter-of-factly. Everyone thinks for a moment and come to the conclusion that Ino is right. Okay then, me and Ino-chan will go in while you three look for a place to hide and wait for us. Naruto explains the plan and Sakura, Hinata and Temari nod in agreement as they began looking for a place to hide. Hinata took to the trees and hid in the nearest one to the house, and using her Byakugan she'll be able to see what's happening around her and alert the hides in some bushes. While Temari hides under an overturned food cart leaning on the side of a wall in an alley. Are you ready, Ino-chan? Naruto asks, to which Ino replied with a simple, yes. They walked around the house to the back door. Ino placed her palm on the wall next to the door and channels some chakra to it, opening a secret compartment with a spare house key. Enter the house and see a light coming from the living room where Ino's parents are sitting on the couch. You couldn't find her? Megumi asks her husband, her voice close to panic. No. I looked in the places she would normally hang around but she wasn't in any of them. Inoichi responded, close to panicking himself. Mom, Daddy? Their eyes widen at the familiar voice and they turn their attention towards the darkened hallway to see a silhouette of what appears to be a woman standing in the darkness with someone. Ino. Both Ino's parents shouted in unison as Megumi stands and walks towards her daughter, worry now being replaced with anger. Where have you been, young lady? Do you have any idea how late? She suddenly stops, her anger quickly dissipating as shock starts to overcome her, draining the color from her face. As Ino steps into the light, revealing her form. Oh God. Megumi whispers, her voice close to hysteric. She and Inoichi stare in shock at this platinum blonde fox standing before them with her tail wrapped around her legs nervously. Is it really you, Ino? Inoichi asks, his voice cracking slightly. Ino smiles and nods at them. She takes a step towards them. But her mother reflexively takes a step back and Inoichi quickly puts himself in front of his wife protectively. Please don't be afraid. Ino says, trying to plead with them. How can we be sure that it's really you? Inoichi demands, being wary of the fox. Read my mind and you'll know it's really me. Ino suggested, but her father remains unsure. How can I be sure you won't try to attack me? He asks, but Ino just smiles as she responds. If I wanted to attack you I would have done so from the beginning. Realizing that she's right, Inoichi steps closer but a bit cautious. When he gets close enough he gently places his right palm over the fox's forehead, noticing that she's at least a foot taller than him. He begins to go through her memories from her days in the academy to her duties as a ninja. Inoichi's shocked at the realization that the vixen was telling the truth, that she is in fact his daughter. As he attempts to look at her memories from today, he's suddenly stopped and pushed out of Ino's mind. Inoichi blinks several times as his mind returns to his body. He looks at Ino, who's grinning like a fox. Sorry Daddy, but those special memories are off limits. Ino tells him with a mischievous gleam in her eyes. But how did you become this? He asks, still suspicious at the special memories she mentioned and the fact that she was able to easily push him out of her mind. It's a result of me finding my mate. Ino responds with great happiness. A mate? Her mother asks, confused, as she walks up to stand beside her husband. Yes, in other words, my husband. I'm married now. Ino tells with equal happiness, barely keeping herself from, and Megumi's eyes widen in shock and disbelief. Husband? Married? They shouted in unison. To who? Asked Megumi, and on cue the other person with Ino steps forward, revealing himself to be a sunny blonde fox who's scratching the back of his head nervously, towering over them. That would be me. Naruto laughs sheepishly. Ino smiles and wraps her arms around his left arm. Mom, Dad, I want to introduce you two to my husband, Uzumaki Naruto. Ino says proudly. Naruto? Inoichi yells in shock and fatherly rage that this punk deflowered his daughter. Megumi on the other hand stares at Naruto with her mouth open in shock. Her eyes start to wander to Naruto's strong chest muscles, powerful arms and legs, causing her to blush. Ino notices how her mother is taking special notice of her mate and smiles mischievously. He's pretty good eye candy, isn't he, Mom? Ino asks teasingly as she rubs Naruto's muscular chest suggestively. But only I can get a taste. Ino winks at her mother, causing her to blush profusely and Inoichi to look at her in shock. Honey? Megumi turns to her husband and shakes her hands in front of her wildly. It's not what you think, Inoichi-kun. She reassures her husband, but her still beat giggles at the display before deciding she had enough fun teasing her mom. I'm just teasing you, Mom. I know you love Daddy very much and you're gonna prove it to him later tonight. Inoichi and Megumi blush at what their daughter just suggested but quickly shook it off, wanting to get back to the matter at hand. Let's not get off topic, Inoichi tells them. Your father's right, you still haven't explained to us how you two are married. Ino and Naruto look at each other before Naruto answers. It's simple. My chakra responded to Ino-chan, signifying that we are a perfect match, and then we marked each other, making us mates. Naruto explained it in the simplest way possible while Ino shakes her head, smiling at how her Naruto-kun gave a very Naruto-like answer, but then that's what she loved about him. Marked? Inoichi questioned, thinking that Naruto marked his baby girl by having his way with her, But he was surprised when Ino and Naruto showed them their marks that are currently glowing on their necks to make themselves visible. This mark shows that I belong to Naruto-kun. Ino explains dreamily. The same goes for mine, although I don't just belong to Ino-chan. Naruto says doesn't like the sound of that and asks, what do you mean? Ino's parents see her narrow her eyes. Unfortunately, I wasn't the only one who was compatible with Naruto-kun. Ino spits out seethingly, obviously annoyed that she has to share Naruto's affection. You mean? Megumi couldn't finish that sentence, her right hand covering her mouth to suppress a gasp. Yes. Naruto-kun is mated to 3 other vixens. Ino finishes what her mother wanted to. Her parents are shocked, as if the previous news weren't bad enough. Inoichi's eyes narrow as he looks at Naruto with seething anger. So my daughter wasn't enough for you, so you decided to have more women, huh, Naruto? Naruto raises his hands in front of his body, motioning for Inoichi to hold on. Although he can easily take on Inoichi, he doesn't want to hurt his mate's father. And no, that's not it at all, Inoichi-san. It's more than I could ever want. But what? Inoichi abruptly interrupts Naruto, getting ready to beat the living daylights out of him. My chakra reacted to 3 other women after I marked Ino-chan. I had no idea that would happen. Naruto desperately tries to explain himself. But you still could have chosen not to mark them. Inoichi countered, not buying Naruto's excuse. I can't do that. Naruto suddenly yells out, surprising everyone in the room. And why is that? Inoichi asks, a bit worried now from Naruto's outburst. Because someone else might claim them, and just the thought of someone else spending time with them makes me angry. How would you feel if before you married your wife and you're going to make your move but someone else tries to make a move on her first? Are you just gonna let him take her from you? Inoichi is taken aback but looks towards his wife, who smiles gently towards him. Inoichi sighs, calming himself a little before answering, I wouldn't sit still. I would fight for Megumi-chan. Megumi's smile brightens at her husband's words and kisses him on the cheek. The same thing applies to me. Even if I didn't mark Ino-chan first, I will make her mine and fight whoever tries to take her from me. Naruto declares with determination, causing Ino to blush at the sincerity of his words, and then a beautiful smile spreads across her lips, knowing Naruto means everything he said, and hugs Naruto's arm tighter, burying his arm in between her enormous S. Okay, but why did you two become foxes? Megumi asks the question she wanted to ask since seeing Ino's new form. Because Naruto-kun's a fox. Was Ino's simple answer. Both her parents look at Naruto. Could this have something to do with the Kyuubi? Inoichi thinks to himself, that explains Naruto, but what about you, Ino? Megumi asks curiously. When Naruto-kun marked me as his mate, I became a part of his clan, hence why I turned into a fox. Ino tries to explain. I see, Megumi says, trying to understand what her daughter just told her. Also, my abilities have been greatly enhanced and so has my body. Ino motions to her body and enhanced features. Can you change back? Megumi asks nervously, I'm not sure, and even if I could, why would I want to? Ino replies to her mother's question while snuggling into Naruto's arm before looking to them again. Anyway, I wanted you two to know that I found the love of my life and introduce you to him. And what are you two going to do after you've talked to us? Asked Inoichi, waiting anxiously for their answer. He didn't wait long as Naruto answered, well, after we said our goodbyes, me and my mates will go look for a den. A den? Goodbye? Ino's parents asked simultaneously. Yes, every child must leave the nest eventually to start a life of their own. Ino tells them, but like this? Megumi asks, referring to their fox forms. Yes, we will live our lives undisturbed and raise our kids in peace. As soon as Ino finished, there was a long silence as Ino's parents processed her last words. Inoichi is the first to break the silence. Ino. Don't tell me that, Inoichi stammers out. Yes, I'm pregnant with Naruto's baby. Ino confirms while she gently rubs her stomach with her left hand. Then I can't just let you two leave then. Inoichi declares as he gets ready to make his move. I figured you would say something like that. Naruto manages to say before Ino disappears from his side, only to reappear behind her parents. With a single karate chop to the back of their necks, Megumi and Inoichi were out cold. Naruto catches them before they could hit the ground and lays them gently on the couch. I guess it was too much to hope that they would just go along with everything. Ino says solemnly. Naruto walks up to Ino and wraps his arms around her waist. Hey, don't worry about it, Ino-chan, at least they weren't opposed to us being together. Ino smiles and she snuggles into Naruto's chest. Thank you, Naruto-kun. She looks up to meet his gaze and smiles seductively. You know, that deserves a reward, she says as she licks her lips. Naruto smirks as he brings his arms around her waist to Ino's front and fondles her ass. Wait till we find our den first, then I will wholeheartedly accept your reward, Naruto says huskily. They both then head outside and meet up with Sakura, Hinata and Temari. How'd it go? Sakura asks anxiously. About as well as I would hope, was Ino's response. That bad, huh? Asked Temari. It could have been worse, Ino replied. So whose house should we visit next? Naruto asks, changing the subject. We'll go meet mines next, Hinata offered. Okay, but we better hurry before we're found out, Naruto warns them as they start leaping through rooftops towards the Hyuga clan. When they arrived at the compound, Hinata gestures to a nearby tree and they land on the branches without making a sound. Ordinarily the guards on patrol would see you no matter where you hide and sound the alarm, but thanks to our new looks, as long as you act like foxes, then they won't pay you much mind, Hinata told the girls, but I would suggest you still keep your distance from any of the guards and try to conceal certain traits that might draw their attention. She motions to their large S, causing them to blush. As if I'd let someone have a peek at these babies, Ino declares, folding her arms under her S and pushing them up. These are exclusively for Naruto-kun. The rest of the girls nod in agreement and Naruto and Hinata start making their way towards the main house of the Hyuga clan, while the remaining girls hide among the dense leaves and acting as natural foxes would. Which wasn't as hard as they thought, since not only has their bodies changed but their minds are now more developed. Their basic instincts now increased, as well as smell, sight and the hearing portions of their brain are more developed. Not only do they retain their human mind but they gained the behavior of a wild fox. Their reproductive cycle has also been altered. They still have their regular human fertile days, but the development of their young inside their womb is a lot faster now. But there's another change in their ovulation cycle that they'll discover later on. Naruto and Hinata to sneak into the main house thanks to Hinata's knowledge of the compound. As they looked around they spotted Hiashi, Hanabi and Neji sitting on the porch overlooking the training yard. Naruto and Hinata jumped from the roof and landed at the far end of the training field and started walking towards the center on all fours. Hiashi, Hanabi and Neji were surprised to say the least at seeing two large foxes approaching them, but surprise turned into shock when the purple fox suddenly stood upright. The moon shone on her fur, making it shine and glisten. Hiashi, Neji and Hanabi were left breathless at the fox's beauty, and even as she was walking towards them each step she took was graceful, barely making a sound. Hinata put a little extra sway in her hips to entice Naruto, and using her Byakugan she can see her efforts were paying off as she sees his eyes glued to her perfectly shaped butt. Hinata's lips form into a satisfying smile as she comes to a stop a few feet in front of her father, younger sister, and clasps her hands in front of her crotch area and bows. Good evening, father, Hanabi-chan, Neji-nichan. Hinata greeted them politely, shocking her family even further that not only can this fox walk like a human but speak too. Then they realized that she knew who they are, and the familiarity of her voice made their eyes widen in realization. Hinata? A shocked Hiashi blurted out. Hinata lifted her head to look at her father and smiles. Yes, it's me, father. Their eyes widened at the confirmation and their minds were flooded with questions as to how did she become like this? What does this mean for the clan and so forth? Hanabi takes a real look at her sister, specifically her large S that are even bigger than what she had before, and without the baggy sweater she can clearly see how firm they look. Her fur looked marvelous, especially in the moonlight, which was also illuminating her eyes. Her slim waistline leads to her nicely shaped hips. Hinata looked like a goddess, causing Hanabi to feel really envious of her sister's fabulous body. Hinata, what happened to you? Neji asked. I have become a part of my mate's world. Hinata replies with a smile. Mate? Was the reply of her three family members. The blonde fox stood up easily, towering over them, and walks behind Hinata before wrapping his arms around her waist and pulling her to his well-toned chest. Yes, it's the same as saying he's my husband, Hinata says with glee. Husband? All three blurted out. Even Hiashi's calm demeanor didn't last at this news. Hinata leans her head back onto Naruto's shoulder. I would like to properly introduce you all to my husband Uzumaki Naruto. Hinata announces happily to them all, making her family speechless that the blonde fox is Naruto and apparently he's married to Hinata. "Hinata, how did this occur?" her father asked after regaining his composure. Hinata looks up at Naruto, who's smiling gently at her. She looks back towards her father. "When Naruto-kun marked me as his mate, I became a fox as proof of my acceptance into his pack. Also, my abilities have greatly increased as a result." "That's not the only thing that's increased," Hanabi thought to herself as she stares at Hinata's enormous S. She must have been staring too long because Hinata noticed her gaze. "Is there something you'd like to ask, Hanabi-chan?" Hinata asks, causing Hanabi to snap out of her gaze and looks into her older sister's pale silted eyes. No, I was just deep in thought, that's all." Hanabi stammers out as she smiles nervously at her sister. "If you're worried about me still being your big sister, then you have nothing to worry about. We'll always be sisters. I'll always love you, Hanabi-chan." Hinata wholeheartedly tells her. Hanabi was touched by her sister's words, but her oxygen supply was starting to run out. "So I'm hoping you could visit us to see our kids when they're born." Hiashi, Neji and Hanabi were confused at what Hinata said. Hanabi manages to lift her head out of her sister's generous bosom. "What do you mean by kits, Hinata-ne-sama?" Hinata blushes a bit, but her fur conceals it. She smiles before taking a step back. She then grabs Hanabi's hands and places them on her stomach. Hanabi is confused at first, but her eyes quickly widen when she finally realizes what Hinata was saying. Do you mean to tell me that you're pregnant?" Hanabi says in disbelief, causing her father and cousin to look at Hinata with widened, shocked-filled eyes. "Yes, without a doubt I'm pregnant with Naruto-kun's baby." Hinata responded happily. She then looks to Naruto, who gives her a foxy grin, causing her to blush. "Of course, with a strong and passionate mate like Naruto-kun, there's no doubt that our kids will strong, or will be without company for long." Her family was speechless, unable to respond. But eventually Neji managed to calm down enough to break the silence. "Hinata-sama, what are you planning to do afterwards?" "Well, me, Naruto-kun, Sakura-san, Ino-san and Temari-san are going to look for a den so we can raise our family." Hinata responded. This caught Neji off guard. "What do you mean? Are you saying that Sakura, Ino and Temari from Suna are also foxes?" a shocked Neji asks. "Yes, Naruto-kun has chosen us to share his life with, and we couldn't be happier." Hinata looks towards her father and walks towards him, stopping 5 feet in front of him. "Father, I know I was always a failure due to my lack of confidence in my skills, so no matter how hard I worked I would ultimately end up failing. But no matter how many times I fail, I will keep trying because I have people who believe in me and want to protect." She casts a look back at Naruto as she gently rubs her stomach before looking back at her father. "Father, I realize that to retain the Hyuga clan's strength I have to marry someone who is not only strong but is of high nobility. Naruto-kun is without a doubt incredibly strong as he saved the village from pain. Not only that, but he's very loyal and would do anything to protect those precious to him. Also, he's very close to our current Hokage and she'll no doubt choose him as her successor." Hiashi looks briefly at Naruto and couldn't help but agree with his daughter. Naruto has indeed proven himself to be a capable shinobi to everyone in the village. Naruto would indeed be able to protect his daughter, and judging by how Hinata is showing great confidence and determination is proving to him that Naruto is having a positive influence on her. "As you can see, Father, Naruto-kun is without a doubt worthy to be my mate and he'll be a great father to our kids." Hinata finishes explaining and looks at her father with determination in her eyes. Hiashi stares into her daughter's silted eyes, looking for any signs of hesitation. "You've made some pretty good points, but tell me this. Do you honestly believe that this young man can make your dreams come true?" Hiashi asks, catching Hinata by surprise. What do you mean, father?" Detecting Hinata's hesitation, Hiashi presses on. "What I mean is, are you gonna put on hold your own ambitions just so Naruto can pursue his?" Hiashi asks in a commanding tone, trying to intimidate his daughter. Hinata lowers her head before quietly whispering, "What would be the point in doing that?" All eyes are on Hinata as she raises her head slightly to look at her father. "If I did that, then how can I stand by Naruto-kun's side? I want to help and support Naruto-kun, so I can't stay idle. I have to get stronger so that whatever challenges comes our way we'll be able to face them together. Naruto-kun void that he'll change the Hyuga clan when he becomes Hokage. But if I become the head of the Hyuga clan, I can help the changes to along more smoothly. Then together we will guide the Hyuga clan to a bright and prosperous future where neither of my kids will be subjugated to the cage bird seal." Hinata explains with fire in her eyes. There will be some members of the clan who will go against your wishes and will do whatever it takes to stop your changes or get you to step down as head of the clan, even going as far as to use your children against you. Hiashi explains with narrowed eyes. I will fight them with all my strength every step of the way, and if they so much as look at my kids with ill intent. Hinata bares her fangs and claws, growling, and with narrowed eyes says, I will tear thee apart. I don't care who they are. If you dare threaten my young, I will kill you. Hinata unleashes a massive wave of killer intent, causing Hiashi, Hanabi and Neji to struggle to keep standing. She's dead serious about that threat, and judging by how she's glaring at me, there's no doubt she'll even kill me if I do even the slightest thing to my grandchildren she doesn't approve. Mothers are a dangerous force to face. Hiashi thought to himself, trying to keep himself from taking a step back. Why, you certainly make a strong argument, Hinata. Hinata calms down and the killer intent begins to subside. Hiashi sighs in relief. Hinata, if you, Naruto and his other mates, are going to look for this den, do you plan to search somewhere near the village or the land of fire for that matter? That depends if the location is suitable. If not, then we'll have to keep searching, even venturing outside the land of fire if we must. Responded Hinata. I see, you understand that the village can't afford to have 5 of its finest shinobi just leave. Hiashi stated, causing the two foxes to tense, and Naruto goes to stand by Hinata's side. But then Hiashi turns around and begins walking away. Then you better hurry, they get a chance to stop you. Hiashi says, causing everyone's eyes to widen in shock, unable to believe what they just heard. Father? Hinata says questioningly. Hiashi stops in front of the entrance eating inside the house and without turning around calls out, Naruto. Naruto straightens up at his name being called. Why, yes sir? Naruto manages to stutter out. Take good care of my daughter. Hiashi simply says, shocking everyone yet again. Naruto got over his shock quickly though, and with unwavering determination responded. You can count on me. Hinata. Hiashi addresses his daughter. Why, yes father? Hinata responds. You've chosen a fine life partner. He's definitely a positive influence on you, and I'm looking forward seeing my future grandchildren you'll have with him. Hinata blushes, but she's happy that her father accepted Naruto. We'll be on our way then, thank you father. She bows and Naruto does the same. They make their leave. Uncle, are you sure about this? Neji questioned after being silent for a while. Hinata has made her decision perfectly clear. Besides, with Naruto and her friends supporting her, I know she'll be alright. But aren't you worried about her? Hanabi Aslo questioned her father after they all entered the house and took a seat. I admit, when I first saw the purple fox and told us that she was Hinata, I was very concerned. Admits Hiashi. Then why did you let her go then? Hanabi asked, not understanding her father's decision. Because your sister is in good hands, was all Hiashi said as they all remained silent as Hiashi poured himself some tea. Meanwhile, Naruto and Hinata regroup with the others and make their way to the Haruno residence. So your dad was okay with you being Naruto-kun's mate along with us? Ino questioned them as they continued to jump off rooftops. Yes, I was surprised myself by his answer. Hinata answered Ino's question. That was almost too nice of him. Temari says questioningly. What do you mean, Temari-chan? Naruto asks her, confused. I don't think he'll just let his heir and the Byakugan leave the clan that easily. Temari explains. I know, but he's at least given us a head start, so we better make the most of it. Hinata finishes saying as they all hurried to the Haruno residence. When they landed by the front door, Sakura took a deep breath. You nervous? Naruto asked Sakura as he came up behind her and nuzzled the right side of her face. I'll be alright as long as you're by my side. Sakura tells him, smiling. She reaches for the doorknob, turning it slowly and opening the door. They made their way into the house, and when they reached the living room they were greeted with the sight of an unconscious Kazashi with a large lump on his head, courtesy of his wife Mebuki, who was standing over him, arms crossed and holding a frying pan in her right hand. Oh great, what did Dad do this time? Sakura asks, annoyed to no one in particular. Upon hearing his daughter's voice, Kazashi suddenly regains consciousness and quickly stood up and engulfed his daughter in a tight hug, crying tears of joy. Oh, my baby girl is home safe and sound. Daddy was so worried. Kazashi says between sobs. Dad, I'm perfectly fine, and stop crying, you're embarrassing me, demanded Sakura, blushing at having her father say such things while Naruto was there to witness. She tried to pry her father's arms off of her, but even with her newfound strength she had trouble freeing herself. When she was finally able to free herself from her father's grip, she noticed that her mother was frozen in shock and her trusty frying pan lying on the floor. Kazashi finally calmed down and looked at Sakura, and as soon as he did, his reaction mirrored his wife's. Sakura? Kazashi asked, a bit shaken. Why yeah. Sakura confirms as she rubs her left arm nervously, waiting for her parents' shock to wear off. How come you're a fox? Her mother Mebuki finally asked. It's a result of me mating with Naruto-kun. Sakura responded. Mating? Kazashi questioned, hoping it wasn't what he thinks it is, as he and Mebuki looked towards the direction of the blonde fox behind Sakura. Kazashi's tune red with steam rising from the top of his head before lunging towards Naruto. Sakura, expecting this, jumped in between Naruto and Kazashi and held her father back. You bastard, how dare you defile my daughter? Kazashi spits out angrily. Dad, calm down. Naruto-kun didn't defile me, we made love just like any married couple do. Sakura says, trying to calm him down, which it did as Kazashi stopped and along with Mebuki looked at Sakura, asking, together? Married? Sakura wraps her arms around Naruto's left arm. Mom. Dad, I want you to meet my husband Uzumaki Naruto. Sakura beams with pride as she introduced Naruto. Her parents stare wide-eyed with gaping mouths. We actually came here so that I can introduce you two to him. Just what the hell is all this about? Kazashi yells in frustration. It's like I explained earlier, Naruto-kun and I are now mated, and we came to tell you two the news before we leave to find a den where we can live and where I can securely give birth to our kids in. As soon as Sakura finishes that sentence, her parents stare at her with pale faces. K-kits? Mebuki stutters out. Sakura, are you telling us that you're… Kazashi couldn't finish that sentence. Yes, I'm pregnant with Naruto's baby. Sakura tells them happily, and soon two thuds were heard as Sakura's parents fainted. Are they okay? Naruto asks worriedly as Sakura kneels down in front of her parents and touches their foreheads. Her eyes glowed briefly before returning to normal. They're all right, they just fainted. I guess this was too much to take in all at once. Sakura explains as she picks up her mother and motions Naruto to pick up her father. They carry them to their room and gently lay them on their bed. Okay, we only have to see one more person. And after that we can officially start our lives. Naruto says as he comes up behind Sakura, wrapping his arms around her chest and cupping her ass. Patience, Naruto-kun. We need to find a den first, then I'm all yours. Sakura says with a smirk. Naruto reluctantly releases his hold on Sakura and head outside, where they expected to find Ino, Hinata and Temari waiting for them, but were nowhere to be found. Where did everybody go? Naruto asked out loud. We're right here, stud. Ino replies in a sultry voice as she, Hinata and Temari appeared in front of Naruto and Sakura, startling them. How'd you do that? Sakura asks, still feeling surprise. It's one of our new abilities. Temari tells her. We can become invisible now to help us hide and remain undetected. Added Ino. We just discovered we could do this a little while ago. Hinata added further. That's awesome. Naruto said excitedly. It would have been great to have that ability earlier. Sakura sighs in annoyance. No point in complaining about it now, I guess. Okay, so how do we become invisible? Naruto asks with excitement, partially bouncing. You just focus chakra around your body. Since our chakra has trace amounts of nature chakra, it reacts to the surrounding environment, absorbing the outside energy, making us blend into the environment. Explains Temari. And since the chakra's surrounding us matches the environment, the Byakugan can't detect us. Finished explaining Hinata. Naruto and Sakura did as they were told and focused their chakra all over their body. Just like Temari said, they became invisible. This is amazing, Sakura said, astonished. Hell yeah, Naruto replied enthusiastically. Come on, we better hurry before they start searching for us. Ino added in as they headed towards their final destination. In the Hokage Tower, Tsunade is busy looking over a small pile of paperwork that earlier in the day was 3 times bigger. How did Sarutobi-sensei not go insane with all this paperwork? Tsunade says in frustration. I think he already did. Tsunade looks up from the paperwork in her hands in surprise and searches around her office for the voice. Who's there? Relax, Ba-chan. Naruto, Sakura, Ino, Hinata and Temari appeared in front of Tsunade's desk. We're right here, Naruto says while grinning. Naruto, Sakura, Ino, Hinata, Temari. Tsunade blurts out, shocked. Good evening Shiso, we're sorry to bother you so late but we have something important to tell you. Sakura says apologetic. She and Ino hug Naruto's waist while Hinata and Temari hug each of his arms. We're Naruto-kun's wives, the vixens declared enthusiastically. Tsunade's eyes widened but not just from the announcement but from the fact that they're all foxes. I came here to introduce them to you. As you know I don't have any parents or any family for that matter but I always thought of you as the mother I always wanted. Naruto explained honestly. Tsunade is deeply touched that Naruto has always thought of her as his mother despite him calling her granny, and if she was honest with herself she was always considered Naruto as her son. Thank you for telling me that Naruto, it really means a lot to me to hear you say that. Tsunade wipes away a stray tear. I also want you to know that I think of you as my son and every day I think to myself what it would have been like if I was able to raise you when you were tell me why you're here. It can't be just for the announcement. You're right, we're here to tell you that we're leaving. Temari stated. Leaving? Tsunade says shocked, she clearly wasn't expecting to be told that. We're not abandoning the village if that's what you're thinking. Ino clarifies. We're going to go searching for a den. Sakura explains. And once you become like us you'll be able to find it using the link. Hinata finishes explaining. Link, wait, become like you? Tsunade says shocked. Yeah, because you also have Fox Chakra. Naruto says as if it was obvious. Fox Chakra? Tsunade AKS raising her eyebrow. Yeah, I had it and it turned me into what you see. My mates turned into vixens after I marked them and gave them Fox Chakra. Naruto finishes explaining. Naruto, did anyone else see you like this? Tsunade asked. Yeah, we visited each of my mates' parents and told them what we told you. Said Naruto. But we really must be going now. I'm sorry to have to leave so abruptly Lady Tsunade but we must leave undetected. Temari explains. You do realize that as Hokage I can't just let you leave like this. Tsunade tells them, she sighs and sits back on her chair. But as your mother it is my responsibility to help my son and daughters-in-law so I'm giving you a 5-minute head start. She smiles and looks at their stunned expressions. You're the best Ka-chan. Naruto yells happily as he leans over the desk and pulls Tsunade into a hug. She's surprised by the sudden gesture BT quickly returns the hug. Naruto looks back towards his mates. What are you standing there for? This hug isn't complete without you. Sakura, Ino, Hinata and Temari quickly joined in. Tsunade could feel the love emanating from the hug. Be careful out there, all of you. Tsunade tells them worriedly. Don't worry Ka-chan, I'll make sure nothing happens to my mates. Declares Naruto. That's what worries me. Tsunade tells him as she breaks the hug to look at her new daughters. I'm trusting you four to take care of my son and keep him out of trouble. Hey, Naruto protests. We'll try, Sakura says while smiling. Don't worry, we'll keep him in line. Added Ino. Where were you earlier? We have a situation on our hands. Tsunade demanded, clearly annoyed at her teammate. Jiraiya looks at her confused before Tsunade tells him what's going on. You're kidding, right? Jiraiya says, shocked at what Tsunade has just told him. I wish I was. She tells him, starts shifting comfortably in her seat. Somehow she's able to really smell Jiraiya clearly and his scent is driving her crazy. Maybe this has something to do with the nine-tailed fox. Jiraiya theorizes. It does make a lot of sense, but I need to fully analyze them to be certain. Tsunade tells him, still shifting comfortably. Jiraiya looks at Tsunade and notices that her cheeks are red. Tsunade, are you feeling alright? Of course I'm alright. Tsunade lasses out. Jiraiya suddenly picks up her scent and begins to lean closer. Damn, she smells really good. He thinks to himself. Jiraiya? Tsunade says his name questionably as she notices his face inching closer to both stare deep into each other's eyes and they begin to lean towards each other. But before their lips could meet there was a knock on the door making them back away instantly. Who is it? Tsunade stutters out, face red for what almost happened. It's me, Lady Tsunade. Shizune replies from the other side of the door. Jiraiya and Tsunade compose themselves before Tsunade tells Shizune to enter. Milady, we've received a reply from the case cage. He's accepted your request and is on his way to the Leaf Village. Shizune informs her. Good, thank you Shizune. Tsunade says. There was another knock on the door. Tsunade tells them to enter and it's Kakashi, Sai, Shikamaru and Choji. Lady Hokage, we've finished checking on Sakura's parents. They were lying in bed but not by their one accord. Kakashi informs her. Ino's parents were in a similar state, however we found them on a couch. Added Shikamaru. We've managed to awaken them and they informed us what had occurred. Apparently Naruto and Sakura visited them about their situation and fainted when Sakura told them she was pregnant. Saya explained. The same thing with Ino's parents, but Ino knocked them out when they attempted to stop them from leaving. Shikamaru finished explaining. Very good, you can all go join the search team for the time being. Tsunade orders. Yes mom, they all said in unison as they exited the room. Tsunade looks to Jiraiya. Jiraiya-kun, can you ask the toads if they can assist us in the search? She asks him. Sure, I'll wait. Did you just call me Jiraiya-kun? Jiraiya says surprised. What about it? Tsunade responded annoyed. She glares at Jiraiya, causing him to cower in fear. No, it's just that you never called me that before, so I was a little surprised. Jiraiya nervously responded. Tsunade crosses her arms and turns away from him. So you don't want me calling you that? What? No, it's that in fact I like it. Jiraiya tries to tell her. Tsunade turns to face Jiraiya, a small smile on her lips. And so you should. Now go already. Naruto, Sakura, Ino, Hinata and Temari could have left the Land of Fire's territory by now. Jiraiya wasted no time and disappears in a puff of smoke. Tsunade sighs in exhaustion. Honestly, what am I going to do with that man? She asks herself with a serene smile on her lips which didn't go unnoticed. Lady Tsunade? Shizune thinks to herself, confused with her mentor's actions. Meanwhile, the cage along with his escorts Kankuro and Matsuri are making their way to Konoha. What do you suppose the Hokage wants to talk to you about? Kankuro asks his brother. I'm not sure, but I have a feeling it involves Temari and Naruto. Gaara answers him. Temari-san and Naruto-sama? Matsuri says confused. That punk had better not do anything to Temari. Kankuro says angrily at the thought of his older sister being violated by the blonde knucklehead. I don't think Naruto would be the type of person to do something to Temari against her will. Gaara reassures him. Let's just hurry and asks Temari when we get there. Kankuro says as they continue forward they eventually reach the forest, and as they make their way through it Gaara notices two foxes in a hollowed out tree sleeping together. Kankuro notices Gaara looking at something in the distance. What is it, Gaara? I just saw a pair of foxes. Gaara answers him. Foxes? Kankuro questions. Yes, it's very rare to see them in this area, much less two. Gaara says as he begins speeding up. Kankuro looks in the direction Gaara was looking at earlier, but it was too dark to see. Following morning the trio arrived in the Leaf Village and are immediately escorted to the Hokages. Entering they see Tsunade sitting in her chair with Jiraiya to her right, Shizune to her left and numerous shinobi around the room. Tsunade stood up and bows in greeting. Thank you for meeting me on such short notice, Lord Cage. Tsunade greets her quests. Gaara, Kankuro and Matsuri bowed in response. Tsunade motions for the cage to take a seat. Lady Hokage, what is this urgent matter that you wish to speak to me about? Gaara asks, getting straight to the point. And how come Temari's not here? Kankuro added in. What I'm about to tell you is going to be hard to believe, but yesterday Uzumaki, Naruto, Sakura, Ino, Hinata and Temari transformed into humanoid foxes and have left the village in search of a den. Tsunade tells them and gauges their reactions. As expected, that trio are in shock and disbelief. Kankuro eventually voiced his disbelief. What? He shouted. As of yet we don't fully know what caused their transformation, but Jiraiya-kun mentioned it had to do with the Kyuubi. Tsunade tells them. The Kyuubi? Gaara questions. I believe the Kyuubi's animalistic nature has influenced Naruto and transformed him and the girls he's chosen as his mates into foxes. Jiraiya explains. I've already sent out several of my most trusted shinobi to go search for them. Tsunade assures him. Then I will also send out my most trusted shinobi to aid in the search. Gaara proposed. Yes, this will be a SS-class mission. We must find them before anyone else knows what's going on. Tsunade says. Kankuro, Matsuri, go help the Leaf Shinobi in their search for the foxes. Gaara ordered. Hi. They both agreed and disappeared. Gaara stares at Tsunade. There's more, isn't there? Gaara questioned the Hokage. Yes, I've managed to discreetly scan the bodies of the girls and discovered that they are pregnant. Tsunade tells him. Gaara's eyes widen at the news. He then calmly stands up and heads towards the door. Then I'd better join them to help improve our odds. I don't want my niece or nephew to be born in the woods. Gaara stated as he exits the room. I'd better go too. The sooner I get started looking for them, the sooner we'll find them. Jiraiya tells Tsunade as he opens a window, but before he can step out he feels a tug at his left sleeve. He looks to see Tsunade looking at him with pleading eyes. Please find our son Jiraiya-kun. I don't want him or his future family out there where I can't make sure they're safe. Tsunade tells him, almost begging. Jiraiya is surprised by Tsunade's tone but smiles gently and places his right hand on her cheek and caresses it. Don't worry, I'll find them and bring them back home. With that said, he jumps out the window and across the rooftops. Jiraiya-kun. Tsunade whispers his name. Lady Tsunade isn't acting quite like herself. Shizune thinks to herself as she watches her master's continued odd behavior. For the next several days they searched the surrounding area around the Leaf Village. Soon their search spread further out of the Leaf Village, but they couldn't find a single trace of them. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. Days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months. They practically searched all of the Land of Fire but only found small leads. It's now been 6 months, and deep in the woods in the Land of Fire a deer is grazing near a stream, unaware that he's being watched. Suddenly a large yellow fox materializes behind the deer and pounces on it. With his powerful jaws he bites down onto the deer's neck, killing it instantly. The fox picks up the deer and carries it off. He then stops at a waterfall and places his palm against the rock surface behind the waterfall, and it opens up to reveal a dark tunnel. During their stay in the cottage, Naruto found scrolls detailing about the seal on the waterfall, and with that knowledge he was able to incorporate Sakura, Hinata and Temari's chakra into the seal so that they can come and go without Naruto always having to open the door for them. He enters the cave and the waterfall closes behind him. He navigates through the tunnel and reaches the clearing. The entire area is illuminated in orange due to the setting sun outside. Naruto makes his way to the cottage. Opening the front door and entering inside, he makes his way to the living room where he finds his mates. A platinum blonde vixen laying comfortably across a sofa. Below her, lying on a futon, was a pink vixen curled up in a ball. A sandy blonde vixen and a violet-colored vixen are also curled up next to her on their own futons. I'm home, Naruto announced. The vixens' ears perk up and they raise their heads to look at Naruto. Welcome home, they all greeted him happily. I brought you something, Naruto tells them as he shows them the deer. They look at it excitedly and they slowly stand up, revealing their swollen bellies that are filled with the life of their unborn cubs. They take the deer from Naruto and immediately start tearing into it, hungrily devouring large chunks of meat, barely leaving anything but the bones. Once they were finished, they all gathered the futons they were using together and they all laid on top of it. Naruto's vixen snuggled close to him while he rubbed each of their stomachs affectionately, a wide grin on his face. I can't wait until they're born. I wonder if they'll take after their daddy? Ino teasingly tells Naruto as she affectionately rubs her stomach. Let's hope not, otherwise we'll have our hands full with them. Temari commented. Hey, Naruto shouted, seemingly offended. They all had a good laugh before they settled in a comfortable silence. I just want them to be healthy. Naruto breaks the silence and he feels a kick coming from Ino's belly. Did you feel that? Ino asked him, a bright smile quickly appearing on her face. Yeah, Naruto replies, a smile also on his face, and it only grew wider as he feels more kicks from his other mates. They sure are active, Sakura says as she feels her baby kicking against her stomach. Her smile is filled with happiness unlike anything she has ever experienced before, but she believes that once she's holding her baby her happiness will soar. A little too active, Temari comments. Not too long ago she was a proud kunoichi of Suna, acting as an ambassador between her village and the Leaf. Never in her wildest dreams had she expected to be in the situation she is now, turning into a fox. Living in a secret cottage that once belonged to Naruto's parents with 3 other women that got turned into foxes like her and the man responsible for changing her world. But the biggest change for her is that in just 3 more months she'll become a mother. Little does she or any of the other vixens know that their ascension to motherhood is a lot closer than they realize. I think they're just anxious to be born, Hinata tells them, her smile mimicking the others. She still couldn't believe that she is carrying Naruto's child. She's always dreamed of this day, although the circumstances were not what she had expected and she had to share Naruto with 3 other women. But that doesn't matter, she's finally able to be with Naruto and have his child. Even if she has to share him with the other vixens, and now that she's had time for it to sink in, she would much rather prefer the company of Sakura, Ino and Temari. That's one thing they inherited from their father, they're just as impatient as he is. Sakura joked. She gently rubs her swollen belly and feeling her baby kick against her palm. Despite being aware of the symptoms and challenges of being pregnant, it was nothing compared to actually experiencing it. The morning sickness was bad. Then there were the odd cravings for ramen, much to Naruto's delight. But the worst for Naruto was the mood swings. Despite now being a fox, it did nothing to stop her raging hormones. In fact, it actually worsened it. She would be depressed over Naruto just talking with the other vixens, thinking that he might favor them over her. But then be really happy when he talks to her, and her temper has gotten worse. She almost killed Naruto when he rubbed her belly when she was taking a nap. Thinking that there was a predator trying to harm her unborn kid, Sakura's maternal instincts kicked in and she lashed out at the threat. The end result was a battered and beaten Naruto and a very apologetic Sakura. Let's hope they don't inherit their mother's temper. Naruto commented, which earned him a playful bonk on the head by his laid their heads against his chest and started to relax to the soothing rhythm of his heartbeat. Meanwhile, back in the Hidden Leaf Village, Tsunade is looking over progress reports from the search teams. She sighs in frustration before leaning back on her chair. Where on earth could they be? She says aloud. They're probably closer than we think. Tsunade spins around in her chair and sees Jiraiya sitting casually on her open window. Jiraiya-kun, Tsunade shouts. Hey Su-chan, Jiraiya says, grinning. Baka, stop coming through the window. Tsunade says, annoyed. Sorry, Jiraiya apologizes while still grinning sheepishly. Tsunade stands up and walks towards Jiraiya until she's standing in front of him. Did you find anything? She asks him with hopeful eyes. Unfortunately no. The toads are searching every inch of the land of fire and we tried reverse summoning, but for some reason it's not working. Jiraiya tells her as he looks into her eyes, where they were hopeful a minute ago are now filled with sadness. It kills him to see Tsunade so sad. What about the other elemental nations? She asks. I have my spy network check on any unusual reports such as missing livestock or if someone spotted unusually large foxes with unusual fur colors. He tells her. Tsunade takes one more step closer to Jiraiya. We should have found some clue to where they're by now. She whispers, her voice trembling a bit. Jiraiya picks up on the tone of her voice and notices her trembling arms and instinctively wraps his arms around her in an attempt to comfort her. Tsunade responds by snuggling into his chest. Hey now, don't worry, if we can't find them then that means nobody else did either, so they're safe. He tries to reassure her. Tsunade lifts her head to look at him, her eyes glittering with unshed tears. I know, but I want to know that they're okay. Sakura, Ino, Hinata and Temari are 6 months along in their pregnancy. They won't be able to defend themselves without hurting the baby. She tells him on the brink of panic. Relax, I'm sure. Relax? How can I relax when my son and his mates are out there and have only about 3 months left until they give birth to our grandchildren, and I'm not there to make sure the birth goes smoothly? And why are you so calm about all this? Tsunade practically screams at him. Jiraiya simply smiles, because Naruto's with them. Tsunade just blinks in confusion, and before she could ask, Jiraiya continued. Before you interrupted me, I was going to say that Naruto is taking good care of them. You of all people should know that boy will protect those precious to him with all his might and come out victorious. He said proudly. Tsunade knew he was right. Naruto can make the impossible happen by simply believing in himself. He grew stronger simply so he can protect his comrades. In fact, he mastered the Rasengan mid-battle in order to protect her. But even so, she still wanted to find them as quickly as possible. Jiraiya sensed her doubt. He brings his right hand underneath her chin and gently lifts her head so she's looking at him. Don't worry, Haim, we'll find them, and until then Naruto will keep everyone safe. He told her with a smile. Tsunade looks into Jiraiya's eyes, which are looking at her with such gentleness, compassion, and dare she say it, love. Jiraiya-kun. She says his name gently as they continue to stare into each other's. Their faces slowly inching towards each other and their eyes slowly closing. Their lips met and ignited a fire deep inside them. Tsunade wraps her arms around Jiraiya and deepens the kiss. Red chakras surrounds them and their kiss becomes more heated. Jiraiya brings his arms around Tsunade and gropes her ass. Ordinarily this would earn him a one-way trip across the village courtesy of Tsunade, but surprisingly she doesn't mind and actually moans in the kiss. They soon part, leaving a thin trail of saliva between their mouths. Tsunade opens her eyes to reveal them to be slits. Jiraiya-kun. Tsunade calls his name with desire. Tsunade. I've always loved you. Jiraiya abruptly confessed. Tsunade's eyes widen at his confession. She always knew Jiraiya had feelings for her, but to have him tell her that he loves her is a little overwhelming. I've loved you way before Dan, since the first day we met when we were genin. I wanted to tell you how I felt but I didn't know how to. Jiraiya tells her. Tsunade looks into his eyes and sees something she's never seen in Jiraiya before: fear. Fear at being rejected, fear of not being accepted, fear of his love not being returned, and fear of losing caresses his left cheek with her right hand. Jiraiya-kun. You have no idea how happy I am to hear you say that. To know that you've loved me all this time even when I was with Dan. You must have been in a lot of pain because of me. Tsunade says, tears beginning to form in her eyes. If you can find it in your heart to still love me after all that I put you through, then I vow to return all the love you've given me and wipe away all the pain you've been carrying and replace it with all my love. Jiraiya's widen in shock. The woman he longed for and fought for has accepted his love for her and returned it. Su-chan. He yells happily as he picks her up and spins her around. Kya. Tsunade shrieks in delight at being lifted and spun around. Baka, she calls him happily. Jiraiya puts her down gently, not releasing his hold on her. Tsunade stands on her toes and leans her head to the right side of Jiraiya's head, now to make it official. She whispers in his ear before she bites down on his neck, marking him as her mate. Jiraiya is surprised at the sudden pain, but it quickly fades as Tsunade lets go in a mark of a white fox sitting next to a blonde vixen. The sides of their heads leaned into each other's and their tails intertwined with the Uzumaki symbol around them appears on his. Looks into Jiraiya's now slitted eyes as soon he leans forward and bites onto Tsunade's neck, causing the same symbol to appear on her neck. He removes his fangs from her neck and they stare into each other's slitted eyes with love and passion. They leaned their heads closer until their lips met in one of many passion-filled kisses, causing the red chakra to flare wildly. Their minds are flooded with images of them as genin training and completing missions together. Then it displays their lives in their teens, but unlike their teen years, it shows what could have been. They're laughing together, going out on dates and enjoying the sunset with Tsunade resting her head on his shoulder. There are moments where she's comforting him when he failed to stop Orochimaru from leaving the village, and Jiraiya comforting Tsunade over the loss of her brother Nawaki and of Dan, who gave his life protecting Tsunade so she gave continue to live in the new age. Dan, Jiraiya and Tsunade have become good friends, and seeing them so happy together made him vow to himself to protect their happiness. Soon their lives as adults living together flashed in their mind, and judging by the rings on their fingers they are happily married. Then came an image of a very pregnant Tsunade sitting on a sofa with Jiraiya on his knees rubbing her stomach and hearing the baby's heartbeat. Both of them are smiling happily. And finally an image of Tsunade on a hospital bed. A baby boy with blonde spiky hair wrapped in a blue towel is in her arms, and Jiraiya has an arm wrapped around her shoulder as they look at their son lovingly. "Welcome to the world, my little Naruto," the Tsunade on the vision whispered to her baby. In the real world, Tsunade felt tears running down her cheeks at what could have been if she only grasped this happiness sooner. They soon part and Jiraiya looks at Tsunade, who still has her eyes closed as tears continue to fall freely. "Tsunade," Jiraiya says her name softly. "I'm such a fool," Tsunade suddenly says. "How could I have been so blind? My happiness was right in front of me and all I had to do was reach for it. But I didn't even make any effort to at least try, instead all I did was run away." She wails. "Tsunade, come on, you shouldn't be so hard on yourself." Jiraiya tried to assure her, but she refused to listen. "It is, if I had just opened my eyes to what was in front of me then." She looks at Jiraiya with puffy red eyes. "Then he could have been born to us." Tsunade manages to tell him before sobbing. Jiraiya now understands why Tsunade is so distraught. He too has experienced the visions, and although he wished things would have gone like that, he still makes do with what he has, and that's Tsunade finally accepting his love and giving them a chance. But for her, the thought that she could have given birth to Naruto and actually be his real mother was too much. "Haim, listen, regardless if you gave birth to Naruto or not, you're still his mother, he even told you so himself." Tsunade stops her sobbing and looks at Jiraiya. "He did say that, didn't he?" "Yeah, so let's concentrate our efforts into finding Naruto and his mates instead of the mistakes in the past," Jiraiya tells her, smiling. Tsunade couldn't help but smile. Jiraiya is right, there's no use worrying about the mistakes of the past, she needed to concentrate on the now. Taking a deep breath, she managed to regain her composure. You're right, Jiraiya-kun, I should focus all my efforts on the happiness I have now instead of the happiness I could have had a long time ago. She tells him before she gets a hold of his right hand with her right and intertwines their fingers. But if you don't mind, I'd like some alone time with my mate first. She says in a sultry voice that causes Jiraiya to blush. Su-chan, you don't mean. Jiraiya trails off, not believing what he's hearing. Oh yes, I'd like to consummate our mating, and since we don't know when the search party will report on the whereabouts of our family, now is a good time to do it. Tsunade explains to him, her slitted brown eyes staring deep into his gray-slitted eyes. Jiraiya remains silent, but then he suddenly picks up Tsunade bridal style and leaps out the window. Jiraiya-kun, what the hell? Tsunade says. Jiraiya just continues to speed across the rooftops. She realizes that they are heading towards her family home that she's been living in since she got back to the village and became Hokage. She smiled before looking up to Jiraiya and wrapping her arms round his neck. How about a little warning next time? She says in amusement. What fun will then be? He tells her, grinning widely. Tsunade simply laughs and relishes in the feeling of being carried like this. Tonight was going to be a good night. Meanwhile, the vixens were walking around the cottage. Naruto had gone out to hunt and they were feeling bored inside the cabin without him, so they decided to stretch their legs. Ino was currently laying on a field of flowers. Ordinarily the florist in Ino would object to this, but the flowers aren't crushed when she lays on them. In fact, they seem to form around the curve of her body, and when she gets up the flowers do the same, looking like they weren't laid upon. Ino sighs in exhaustion. She's been getting tired more easily lately, but she figures it has something to do with her pregnancy. She originally wanted to nap in the flower bed, but for some reason she couldn't relax. She's been feeling anxious lately, like something big is about to happen. But it's not just her. Sakura, Hinata and Temari have been feeling it too, so they're all being extra cautious in case something happens. Just as she was about to close her eyes, she feels something wet trickling down her legs. Her eyes snap open to see a pool of liquid forming around her lower region. It can't be. Ino whispers in shock. She attempts to get up, but as she does, her body is suddenly hit with pain. Am I feeling the contractions? But it's only been 6 months, she manages to say. Ino, hearing her name being called, Ino looks to see Sakura, Hinata and Temari looking at her with concern, and they all have one hand on their stomachs while the other is holding on to something for support. They all carefully approach her and help her stand. Did your water broke too? Sakura asks her. Ino simply nodded her head as she was hit with another contraction. It appears that they're coming early. Temari tells Thme as she too is hit with another contraction, causing her to bend over in pain. Hinata helps support her friend while struggling through her own contraction. But that can't be safe. Ino says worriedly, if a baby is born at 6 months, its chances of surviving are really small. Maybe not. Temari suddenly says. Everyone looks at Temari as she's taking deep breaths. What do you mean? Ino asks, still worried about her child. I've been thinking that since we've changed into foxes that it wasn't just a physical change. What if it also changed us inside as well? Temari says between breaths, maybe our babies are developing faster due to our fox nature. So you're saying that this is norma for us? Ino says through another contraction. Yes. Temari says through a contraction. We have to hurry inside and inform Naruto. The others nod in agreement as all their eyes started glowing. Meanwhile, hidden in the bushes, Naruto is looking at another deer. There are several fishes next to him that he's recently caught. But just as he was about to strike, his eyes started glowing and he hears his vixen's voices. Naruto-kun, the babies are coming. We need you. Please hurry. Naruto immediately grabs a hold of the fish and teleports home. When he appeared in the living room, he sees his vixens on the floor panting heavily. He quickly rushes to their side. Hey, are you girls alright? He asked them in a panic. We're going through labor. How do you think we're feeling? Ino napped at him but winced as another contraction hit her. Sorry, I was just. Naruto started trailing off. His babies were going to be born and he was the only one that could deliver them. Noticing his panic look, Sakura tried to get his attention. Naruto-kun, listen. Don't panic, just remember what I told you to do in this situation, she reassured him. Naruto took a deep breath to calm himself down. She was right, Sakura had been instructing him on what to do when they went into labor. His mates need him now more than ever. Naruto created several shadow clones to get some towels and bowl water while himself and 3 clones stayed with the vixens. "Don't worry, I'm here now, everything's going to be alright," he assured them, and they nod in confirmation. 2 hours went by and each of their contractions seems to be getting closer after the previous one. Naruto was really nervous, but he kept calm for the sake of his vixens. They are panting heavily as they lied on their back on futons with their legs parted. "Naruto-kun, I'm going to start pushing now," Ino told him, followed by the others as she felt that now was the time. She pushed with all her strength and wailed out in pain. "God, it hurts so much," Ino screamed, as she attempted to push again. "You're doing good, Ino-chan," Naruto encouraged her. "Shut up. This is all your fault, you did this to me," Ino screamed at him. "You just can't help yourself, can you?" Temari added in as she screamed through another push. "I'm going to kill you for this," Sakura yelled as well. "How could you make me experience this kind of pain, Naruto-kun? How could you?" Even Hinata participated in blaming Naruto for her predicament. Naruto and his clones were frightened by their accusations and threats, but he still offered words of comfort and encouraged them to hold on. The real clone that was with Ino was nuzzling her face and licking her cheek. He then went to check her progress and his eyes widened. "Ino-chan, I can see the head," he informed her. Ino was still struggling through the pain, but hearing Naruto say that he can see their baby filled her with new strength. She continued to push through the pain in an effort to birth her baby. "That's it, keep it up, Ino-chan, just a little bit more," Naruto tells her, his voice filled with excitement. Ino let out one last push with all her strength and screaming at the top of her lungs, only to be accompanied by another smaller cry. "It's a boy. We have a son, Ino-chan," Naruto tells her excitedly, tears of joy in his eyes. Ino lifts her head from the pillow to look at her son. He has platinum blonde fur just like her. He has a healthy set of lungs if his cries are any indication. But before she can relish in the feeling of seeing her flesh and blood, she suddenly yells out in pain. "Ino-chan, what's wrong?" Naruto asks worriedly. "I don't think this is over yet," Ino manages to say as feels herself pushing. What?" Naruto asked, confused, as he handed his son to a clone while he tended to Ino. "Why, you're right, I can see another head." "Are you kidding me?" Ino yells out as she yells out in pain. Naruto watches in amazement as Ino attempts to give birth to another child. Ino cries out in pain, pushing with all her might until finally the baby's cry was heard. "It's a girl," Naruto proclaims. He cuts the umbilical cord and heads over to Ino. He signals the clone that has their son to come. Ino looks at her babies and tears of joy flow freely from her eyes, a huge smile on her lips. They're both still crying out, and to Ino it's the most beautiful sound she has ever heard. "You're both so beautiful." Hearing Ino's voice, the 2 babies' cries died down to a whimper. "Can I hold them?" Ino asked timidly. Naruto and his clone nod immediately as they handed them to Ino. As soon as they were in her arms, Ino was overcome with an intense feeling of joy that spread from deep within her to all around her. The plants on the outside of the cottage began to grow flowers, and the trees started blooming flowers as if welcoming these 2 new lives into the world. However, the peace was interrupted by a loud cry, then followed by a smaller one. Naruto looked over to where Sakura is and saw his clone holding a bright red fox. "It's a girl," the clone informed him. But again, it wasn't over. It seems that the new Uzumaki family has been blessed, for Sakura birthed another baby. A girl with golden blonde fur just like her father, but to everyone's surprise, Sakura still wasn't done as she gave out another cry and birthed a baby boy with pink fur just like Sakura. Naruto was a little surprised at the color, but was still happy that his son has beautiful fur just like his mother. Temari nuzzled her children and breathed in their scent. She licked them affectionately and a few tears dropped on them. The feeling of becoming a mother was indescribable. Looking down at her children, she vowed to protect them, nurture them, and teach them to be wonderful treasures. She lays down on her side as her son and daughter suckle on her ass, while her other son that looks like her nuzzles close to her face and falls asleep. Naruto looks at his family. He watches his vixens lick and snuggle their babies and his children suckling on their mother enormous ass. A tear flows down his cheek and a big grin appears on his face. Ino notices him just staring and smiles before saying, "What are you staring at? Come over here, you dummy." Naruto complies and lays down in the middle while his vixens adjust themselves to snuggle into him, careful not to disturb their babies. He kisses each of his kits and gives a passionate kiss to his vixens. I love you all so much, you did a fantastic job bringing our children into the world. Naruto complimented.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.